So, as I've mentioned before, but I don't mention it all the time, that I have autism, right? Um, I don't believe in functioning labels, and if you're somebody who has a hard time communicating, verbally, or you're somebody who has a 50,000 word, vocabulary, 8 languages, whatever, you're autistic. Doesn't matter. And I just wanted to talk about that. You hear a lot from parents with autism, and a lot of times, as well-meaning as they are, you know, it's as if it's as they say, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. You are not autistic. I have very close friends of mine that are black. I care about them a lot. I really do. At the end of the day, I'm not black. I have friends of mine that are gay, and I have friends of mine that are straight. As you can tell, I am neither. I do not know what it's like to be gay or straight. I'm not. This is asexuality, by the way. This is something I'm going to talk about at some point as well. So, if your child is autistic, I'm glad you love them, but do not think for 1 second that you are autistic, because you're not. You can be an ally to the community, but you are not actually a part of it. That's the first thing that I want to be known. Because a lot of times you feel like you want to speak for us, and you have no right to. Just like I don't think I have any right to speak on behalf of what happens in the black community. I see a lot of horrible things happen to them, and I see a lot of, pretty bad stuff they do to each other. I have no way to say either way on any of that. I have no dog in that fight. I have no horse in that race, because I'm not part of the community. I have no right to say anything. I can say I don't agree with it, and that's about as far as I can go. But to speak on behalf of the community, I can't do that. I have family members that are in law enforcement. I'm not a cop. I don't know what it's like. So I have no right to speak on their behalf either. The thing is with autistic people is a lot of times neurotypicals forget that we can talk. For instance, I understand sign language fluently. And ASL and several others. I can talk. Even if my vocal cords don't work, I can still talk. I see stuff like Mark Rober's live stream that he wants to do, the movie Music. And it's something that comes to me, and I got the same thing out of both of those things. I don't agree with either one of them, by the way, but I got the same thing out of it. Stop talking for us. You're not part of our community. Mark's son is autistic. Mark is not. Until Mark can get that diagnosis, he is not considered actually autistic. Sia's friend's kid is autistic. She is not autistic and has no right to speak on behalf of the community. There are millions of autistic actors and actresses out there that, at least if a lower supports needs autistic person was to tone it down a bit, or play it up a bit and pretend to be more supports needs, it would be at least more tolerable, because they at least have an idea of what it's like. I'm going to try to explain something to you. This is what it is like at every moment of every day of my life. Okay, so imagine I trapped you in a room, alright? Close your eyes now. Imagine I trapped you in a room. Imagine I played both the Shag's Philosophy of the World, look that up on YouTube, it's there, and Captain Beefheart's Trout Mask Replica. Now imagine I played those at the same time, and I put it on the loudest sound system you can find. I mean, I blasted that thing in there, and that room is like, it's a small room. It's like this size room. You're not getting, the sound isn't going anywhere, right? Now imagine I took, all of these colognes I have, right? All of these things. Now imagine I just started smashing them. I started smashing them on the ground. Every single one of them. I just started smashing them on the ground. The smell goes everywhere. All of them at once. Imagine I put you in, the itchiest sweater possible, like right after you got done your haircut, and your hair gets caught in your shirt. Imagine that. Now imagine I made the room, freakishly hot and then freakishly cold at random times. Imagine I pumped the whole thing just filled with light. Imagine that, like all the time. I just filled the whole thing with light, right? That is what I deal with every single moment of every day. When we freak out, it's because we can't handle that. See, autistic people are not emotionless. We appear that way because we're constantly in need to suppress it. Think about us like Vulcans on Star Trek, if there's any Star Trek fans. They're a race of people who are actually feel emotions far more than anybody else. Even the warrior Klingons, I'm sure you've seen. These people feel emotions stronger than them. But it's dangerous for them to feel them because it's so strong. So they practice a meditation of, suppressing their emotions. So they appear like emotionless robots, but they're not. That's how we are. We actually feel all of our emotions in extremes. When we get sad, we don't just get sad, we become despondent. We're not just happy, we're, ecstatic. We're not just angry, we fly into a rage. We don't feel emotions like you do. We feel them in extremes. So when you have to deal with that every single day, no matter where you are, you will freak out. You would freak out too. And the other thing I noticed is the stemming. If sometimes in my video you'll see that I rock like this. This is called stemming, and there's different kinds of stemming. There's hand flapping. There's all kinds of different stemming. And a lot of times you're told, "Hey, stop shaking. You're shaking." Why? Is it bothering you? Doesn't. This is how we deal with our emotions. This is how we release all the pent up emotion in us, right? We do it by stemming. Some people have different stems for different emotions. And that's normal. And for us. And that's the thing people also need to understand, that normal is subjective. Just like reality is subjective, and humor is subjective. Normal is subjective. It depends on the person. I can only tell what's normal for you, not what's normal for that guy. If this guy wanders around the parking lot screaming at trash cans every single day, and one day he comes in and just, has a polite conversation, buys a bagel, pays for it, and leaves quietly, that's not normal for him. Stemming is normal for us. We're not hurting anybody. And that's the other thing, like, most of us are genuinely good people that never intend to hurt anyone. And we do a lot. But it's never usually intentional. Now, sometimes I can be a deliberate asshole. If you're somebody who I feel like, as the Irish say, has notions, you're somebody who likes to talk behind people's backs, you think you're better than everybody else, I'll go out of my way to be an asshole to you. But, genuinely I won't. Generally, I won't. Or the lack of eye contact is another one. We don't make eye contact because it's physically, like, it's intimidating for us. We don't like it. It's not something we naturally do, and we don't. So because of this, we don't know the appropriate time length to make eye contact. So I might stare at you like this, and hi, how are you? And or I might just look around. I'm somebody who tends to not look at. I don't even tend to look at the camera for the most part. I had to train myself to do that. One of the tricks I learned is to look at somebody right here, because most people can't actually tell the difference, and it's not as intimidating for me, because it's like, if you look at me in the eye long enough, it feels threatening. I don't like it. Or what's another thing? Like, if we say the wrong things or do the wrong things, the reason we're doing that is because, see, you were born kind of having an idea of what's right and wrong. Your brain just works in a way that you kind of understand. There's rules, and you kind of understand them. You understand that something is appropriate or inappropriate. Our brains work sort of like a computer's program. If this, then this. We only understand if, okay, so if you're at work, then you can't say this thing. I might say something else that is also inappropriate, because it's not that thing. If this, then this. Not if this, then we don't understand that. Everything is, imagine you're trying to teach a person in JavaScript, right? If you understand any JavaScript, that's literally taken down to its absolute bare minimum basics. That's basically how JavaScript is programmed. If this, then this, right? Or, that's how any computer program is really run anymore. If this, then this. You're teaching someone in that way. You are not teaching them in the sense that, he'll just understand. Itchy nose means you're either going to kiss a fool or fight a fool. Or both, if you're having a good time. So, if you ever have the need to teach an autistic person, you need to teach them in the sense of like you would program a computer. You cannot expect the computer to have reasoning. It doesn't. It will never have that. I don't care if you have Star Trek type computers. They are not capable of basic common sense. They just don't have that. They may be able to, tell you the sports scores 50 years ago. That computer might be able to, or robot or whatever, and that thing might be able to lift 20,000 pounds. That thing might be able to calculate, advanced, models of the whole universe. It can't but if you're freaking out at it, it's just going to sit there and look at you like a brick because it can't understand that. We have a difficulty understanding when we've offended somebody or when you're upset because we literally cannot read body language. We might be able to understand basic body language. If you're screaming and you're yelling and you're like this, I understand you're upset, but I will have no idea why you're upset, or even if you're upset with me. And even for the first second, I'm like questioning whether or not you're serious or not. I don't understand these things. I can kind of look for the affect. I learned from my parents to look at the affect of an emotion. Affect is the physical response that emotional triggers cause. So, okay, you're angry. If I look at your nostrils flaring, your breathing intensifies, your face sometimes gets flushed, your eyes lock onto me, those are affects, and I understand, and that, in my mind, if these features are present, then this person is angry. But It doesn't say if these features are present, that person is angry because of this. It literally just says this person is angry. That's all it's done. And so it can be difficult for us to understand things because we literally have to learn all of this stuff. We need to learn body language the same way. Like, imagine I tried to teach you a new language, whatever language you speak natively. Imagine like you had to learn a brand new one. Imagine if So imagine you were born speaking English, and you had to now learn Mandarin Chinese. That's how it is for us to learn body language. We literally have to learn everything. And now imagine that you were literally tone deaf and you had to learn Mandarin Chinese. And if you're not familiar, I don't speak it, but I'm familiar enough to know that it is a tonal language. There's 4 tones to every word that changes the meaning. If you were literally tone deaf to where you couldn't capture the tones, that's how it is for us. We literally have to try to learn a language when that part of our brain doesn't work. And that's, and it can be very difficult. And, we might have special interests too. A lot of us are very interested in one thing. Like, for instance, I'm going to just show you real quick here. I'm a big collector of Wonder Woman, and I have a huge amount of fragrances, right? And I could tell you everything about Wonder Woman. I could tell you, her first appearance, All-Star Comics number 8. I could tell you, I actually have the first issue where she was able to fly. Was George Perez and Marv Wolfman's run of Wonder Woman in the 1980s, Volume 1, gave her the gift of flight. Before that, that's why she had the jet. I can tell you all these things. Ask me a question about, Spider-Man, and I don't know, shoots webs and crawls up walls and stuff. Seems like a cool guy. No idea. And a lot of them are like that, where like you might have somebody who's super into chemistry and could tell you the exact element, or the exact atomic weight of every element of every isotope, but couldn't explain to you, a simple math equation. Same idea. Like Sherlock Holmes. Sherlock Holmes could tell you that the type of cigar just by the ashes he found and exactly where that cigar was bought from. But if you asked him how many colors there were in the rainbow, he'd have no idea because it's not something he's interested in. It's not something he deems necessary to know. And I think that makes us special. Every single person on this planet, they say, if everyone's special, nobody is. You're all here for a reason. Everybody in this world has something they're good at and something they're bad at. I don't care if you're autistic or not. If you're neurotypical, that doesn't matter. There's things that you're really good at. You might be really good at, sports. You might be one of the best, basketball players, football players out there. But maybe you have a hard time with math. Well, go find that kid who's, looks like me, and honestly would never be a football player, but maybe he's, maybe he's a great math genius. He's really good at numbers. Make friends with him. Talk to him. Because now you guys can work together. See, you were half of a person before. But, you had this strength and this weakness, and he has this strength and this weakness. Come together. There's no weaknesses. There's only strengths. And that's how we are. And that's something that I feel like we bring to the table. This is why I have an issue with Autism Speaks and Next for Autism. If you weren't aware, I'd like you to be aware that a lot of what they want to do is cure autism. Curing autism is not like curing cancer. We're an entire group of people. That's like saying you want to cure blackness. They deal with a lot of struggles in this world too. That isn't their fault, and they're subjected to. Do you think it would be fair to just get rid of the entire group? So why is it okay to try to get rid of my group? We bring something to the table. My autism is not a sickness. Even if your child is autistic and can't communicate, the way that you can, he can communicate. You just need to listen. He deserves a right to be autistic. It is not a weakness. If anything, that is his strength. And it just happens to be that a lot of people have the same strength, which is called autism. A lot of us, I'm very good. I'm a janitor, and I'm very good at being a janitor because I am, I can notice the smallest little thing wrong, right? If, there's just a speck of dirt on the floor, I'll clean that up. I can, it's such an if this, then this job that I can manage to do everything. You can have me come in at 7 in the morning and not have a guy until 9 a.m. and I can have everything done for that guy when he comes in. The carts are packed all the way to the door. Bathrooms are spotless. Trash is taken care of. The floor is swept up. That guy can walk in here, sit outside in the cart corral, and just wait for the carts to come in. Because it's, those are things I'm good at. I can be told this, if this, then this. The autism allowed me to be that good. The autism allowed me to notice small little things that nobody else would notice. I can smell, just by smelling, tell you if a perishable item has gone bad. Or it's going to go bad soon. I can literally smell the alcohol from a fermented fruit from across the room. This video is a little long. It's just very important to me. And I appreciate if you've actually watched this whole thing. It really means a lot to me. If anything, I just want this to be something that could help people. And as far as that live stream or like music, I look at it this way. Okay? I think it was made with good intentions. I do not think anyone would intentionally try to hurt an autistic person because we really haven't done anything to warrant it, But it's offensive. It is. My major issue is the fact that when we do speak up, we're not given any voice. A lot of people have told Mark to not go through with this, and that we as actual autistic people are incredibly offended and don't like it. He has said nothing about it. And as far as I know, the thing is going to continue. Sia just decided to curse everybody out and leave the party because she couldn't handle that the group of people who she made the movie for found it offensive. It was offensive. I don't watch it. Trust me. I'm a fan of bad movies. The Room, Birdemic, hell, even Batman and Robin. Love those. This is like watching, old movies with people dancing around in blackface. It's that level of offensive. I feel when I watch that the way I imagine a black person would feel if they watch one of those old movies where the guy's dressed up in tar paint and rags all over him and prancing around. That's how I feel. I feel the way I'd imagine that person would feel. I imagine they would feel. Again, I'm not part of the group. I have no right to say what they would and wouldn't feel, but if I could imagine any experience, this is the way it would feel to me. Don't watch it. Damn, my nose is so itchy. I don't think it was ever done intentionally, though. I just wish you would listen to us and take into account that if what you're doing for our community is hurting our community, and we're letting you know that it's hurting our community, don't do it. Otherwise, you're just helping yourself, and you're doing this for your own ego. You're not doing this for your child or your friend's child. You're doing this for you. Because the people who have the same thing as your child or your friend's child are telling you that what you're doing is going to harm them. I personally believe we should look out for our own community. That I think my parents are wonderful people. I was blessed by God with some of the best parents I could ask for. In fact, in some ways better than I deserve. But not for 1 second do I think they should speak for our community. I think like I said, they are wonderful people. And they have their own struggles. Again, I would never know what it's like to be a neurotypical parent of an autistic child. Because I feel like that would be difficult too. You're thrown into this. You don't know the language. You don't know how everything works. I feel like I could do much a better job of raising an autistic child than I could a neurotypical one. Because I know what the kid's going through. The kid's sitting there screaming and yelling and banging his head and throwing things around the room, and you don't even know why, because he has a hard time. He doesn't communicate like you do. And I'm sure that that's very difficult for you, and I'm not ever taking that away from you. You have your own struggles, and you have your own community. Parents, neurotypical parents with autism, you guys have your own community. You guys can help each other out. I don't think it's your place to speak for anyone else but your autistic child. If he is your child, use your child. Autistic, neurotypical, schizophrenic, I don't care. If it's your child, you take care of your child. That is your number one priority. So I'm not saying you don't have the right to speak for your child. I'm saying you don't have the right to speak for my parents' child. Or, Lacey down the street's autistic son. You don't have the right to speak for her or her kid. You don't have the right to speak to the community. You only have the right to speak for one person in that community. And again, if a bunch of people in this community tell you that something is offensive or wrong, just listen to us. You're going to give money to an organization who, through research, it's been shown that they donate money to another organization who wants to eliminate us. It is no secret that Autism Speaks wants to eradicate autism. That they are an organization targeted towards parents with autistic children. And they do nothing for autistic people themselves. I personally like the Autism Self-Advocacy Network. I think they do amazing things. And they're run by autistic people. Give the money to them. You can still run the live stream. I mean, you can still do this. If there's a contract involved, you know what? Breach it. Breach it. I don't care how much it costs. It's not worth this. Because I'm going to tell you something right now. If you don't breach that contract that you signed with that organization that wants to kill us all, you're going to lose every single one of us. And everybody that's close to people like us. You're going to lose a lot of subscribers. And you're going to lose a lot of money in the long run. You will actually lose more money by not breaching this contract than you would if you breached it. You need to think three-dimensionally. This is something that, autistic people have a hard time with, but I've learned. Think three-dimensionally. Think about what's happening. Think about the consequences to your actions. Every action has a consequence, whether it's intentional or not. The consequence for you continuing to go through with this, much like you saw with Sia losing, she won 3 Razzies. Well, her movie won 3 Razzies for the worst. Razzies is the anti-Oscars. And she lost most of her fan base because she kept going through with it. This is a half an hour, but you know what? I'm going to just tell you a story real quick. I want you to know a story. I went to a school called the Devereaux Day School. It's in downtown PA. It was started by a woman named Helena Devereaux. Helena Devereaux used to work at a place called Penhurst Lunatic Asylum. They would take all kinds of people that the world didn't want to see, but especially people like me. And people who had other levels of autism, right? Other types of autism, whatever. The ones that had a hard time communicating, you know what they used to do to them in that place? They strapped them down to a table. And when they would bite people, because they would get upset and they would be being abused, and they would be being abused in many ways that I'm not going to get into for YouTube's sake. But look into my eyes and you know exactly what I'm talking about. Yes, that way too. You know what they would do when a kid would bite to try to defend himself? Strap him down to a gurney and take pliers and just rip his teeth right out. They didn't give him anesthetic because they believed that if you couldn't talk, you couldn't think, you couldn't feel. They didn't even view them as humans. They would literally just rip their teeth straight out. Oh, this must have been a long time ago. The place closed in 1971. 1971. Only around 50 years ago. The people that worked there and did that are still alive, some of them. During World War II, Hitler wanted to literally eradicate my entire group. It wasn't just the Jewish people who were targeted. It was everybody who wasn't pure Aryan white. Hans Asperger convinced him not to kill all of them because he said some of them were high functioning and could serve the Nazi cause. So because some could talk and some couldn't, some died and some were forced into slave labor. To this day, a lot of people like me that have a hard time communicating are abused, murdered, shot by the police, tased, beaten, violated, because there's still a large group of people who don't view us as humans. Just keep that in mind.